Welcome to this long-term review of the APB DynaSonics H1020 rack mixer. I've owned this mixer now since over a year. I bought it after last year's super booth from Matthias, who runs Pro Audio Technic. And yeah, full disclosure, I got this mixer as a showroom demo model after super booth for a slightly discounted price, but this isn't sponsored content. This is my honest opinion on using this mixer now day in, day out for my music, but also for the sample packs that I record for Rapid Flow. And I'm going to share with you what I think are some very cool things about this mixer, and also just give you a review of how it stacks up after using it for over a year. So first off, maybe good for you to know is that a lot of artists use this mixer. I've seen the same mixer also on stage of, for example, Niels Frahm concerts. I think he used to have 2 of these running. So it's a mixer that's used by a lot of people that really know their craft and know what they're sending their signals into. So I was intrigued by this mixer because I have been making sample packs for Rapid Flow, and I used to use a Mackie 1604, but I didn't trust it to send the signals I was recording through. With this mixer, I realized after running tests, I have no worries at all about sending stuff through there before I convert. It actually often sounds better. So let's dive in. Let me share with you some of the things that I think are super cool about this mixer. First off, this high pass filter that you can see here, that actually every single channel, also the stereo channels, have. It's from off to 400 Hertz, which is super useful when you're producing music. It's great to have bass on your kicks and low ends and toms, but not necessarily on everything else. This is a 12 dB low cut or high pass filter, which sounds really great and clean. And it's super useful to just track stuff in without all that stuff, take the load off of your computer, and it sounds really nice. It's like a really nice, well done low cut. So as an electronic music producer, that for me is super important. The EQs are great. It has semi-parametric mids, so 2 bands. You can choose the frequencies on the full channels, 12 channels it has. That are mono and that have a lot more options what the EQ is concerned, and then the 4 stereo channels that you see at the end here have 1 sweepable mids EQ, but with that I'm usually able to get very close to the sound I have in mind while I'm tracking. It has 6 aux ends. The last 2 are you can gang them into a stereo aux end. All of them are selectable pre or post fader, which is really a luxury. And then, well, you have your pans, your mutes. Very nice to have signal LEDs on each channel to know how loud you're going into the mixer. And then you have your routing section at the bottom here, which has a mono, a center, a left, right, and 2 buses. And this is actually something that I realized is super useful. So in my studio, let me take you over here and I can show you better. I have a lot of gear connected here. I have a ton of synthesizers. I have sends to hardware, delays, reverbs. There's an Eventide hiding in the corner here. And what I realized also about tracking with this mixer is that all of this gear can go into the mixer. I used to have all this gear hooked up to Patchbase, and it meant every time I wanted to record something, I'd have to think about where is it and patch it somewhere, either to the mixer or to a converter. Now what I'm doing is I'm sending all of these synthesizers, drum machines, etc. into my mixer, and from here I'm actually using the groups here to send stuff to my patch bay. So on my patch bay I have group 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have mono and center. Those are the channels that go to the patch bay, so I can actually be tracking 2 stereo signals and 2 mono signals at the same time, and the left-right is going through a Rupert Neve DI box straight to the converter. So that's like the shortest path that I have without patch bay, plus all the benefits of that Rupert Neve DI box. But everything else can be sent individually to the patch bay, so it meant that I don't have to actually connect all my synths to the patch bay, but the mixer is in a sense working as a patch bay, which of course is, like, besides the mixing functionality, is a great use case for a mixer if you are having the luxury of buses. And this is actually one of the other things that I love about this mixer, and that took me like over a year to really figure out and to understand actually how powerful it is. Because the mixer, I'm gonna be straight with you, it's not cheap. Like, I think street list price right now, it's around like 4.5k euro, which is a ton of money for a mixer for sure, no questions asked. But as is often the case, you do get what you pay for. And something that I realized now after running this mixer for over a year is it's not just a 20 channel mixer, so 12 channels up top here and then 4 more stereo channels. All of these mixers actually have dual inputs, and that is huge because I ran out of inputs on my mixer about 6 months ago. I had more devices than inputs until I realized, wait a minute, all these XLR inputs at the top here, these are actually have a pad behind them. Let me show you here. At the top here you can see there's a pad, which means that you can actually run a line signal into that just using a jack to XLR cable, and you can double the amount of inputs that you can have to track stuff into your converters just by choosing if you're going to be running line or mic inputs with a pad on them. So as you can see here, quite a few of these channels at the bottom there you can see have double stickers on them because I'm able to send different stuff in there. I haven't labeled everything yet, but actually everything has 2 synths or 2 effect units, 2 effect returns connected to it. So it's hugely flexible, and something I totally underestimated, that actually means that in a 19-inch rack format, pretty small mixer, you get a massive amount of inputs that you can send anywhere in your studio. And you know, besides the practicality of it, of course, the main thing about a mixer in this category is the sound quality. And yeah, when I replaced the Mackie, it was a huge upgrade in transparency. How can I best describe the sound for you? It's super punchy without sounding thin or brittle. It has, I definitely wouldn't say it has a warm character, but it has like the best elements that I associate with analog. It's like it's a little bit wider than you would think. It has kind of a little bit of vibe to it, but nothing that kind of colors the signal massively. It just feels a little bit better actually going through the mixer than tracking straight to the converters. It does something really nice to the stereo image and the presence and punch that signals can have. It feels kind of, how would I say this, like kind of a little bit high-end, kind of a bit more focused and punchy and upfront. And I've also I've had a lot of different mixers in my studio. I've had the Midas Firewire series, which sounds amazing. That has a lot more sort of low-end ball, but it was way too big and complex to use with Firewire and stuff, and I got rid of it. But it did sound good. It had more character than this mixer, but actually for a mixer that I use to track my stuff in, I don't want that necessarily. As a live mixdown mixer for mixing a band or an electronic act, I would be super happy with that. I've had the Mackie mixer. I've had various Allen and Heath mixers, which sound good but not as good as this mixer, I would say. That's, you know, and they're also in a very different price point, so you know that's not a fair comparison. They're good mixers, I mean, and I was happy to work with them. But yeah, this, for someone that works, I think, you know, like me professionally with, you know, sample packs and also my own music, this is a fantastic mixer for electronic music, and that's what I wanted to share with you. As you can see, you have a bunch of outputs available to you here. You have group mixes, you have aux sends, which, as I shared, I'm using to send signal to various outboard little pedals and reverbs and multi-effects processors. You have external line in and monitor out, so like you could theoretically even add more stuff in here, and this is where things get a bit crazy. You can actually link 2 of these mixers together, where the functionality gets mirrored over and even solo gets sent out through these MIDI connectors here. So it's very, very clever how they've done this, so that if you ever do need to extend your system, you could get 2 of these and link them up so that you could actually then have, where did I get to? What was it? 12 plus 8, 20, 40. You could have 80 channels of inputs that you could route to anywhere in your studio, which is insane on 2x19 HE rack space. Yeah, it's insane actually, thinking about how much fits into this at a very high quality. So is there anything else that I should tell you about? I haven't done much with the mic pre's. I usually actually just stick my microphone straight into the converter because I don't do stuff that requires, like, I don't think and I very rarely track singers these days, so I can't tell you much about that. I use it mostly as a line mixer. I'm sure the mic pre's in it are very good. I was looking at the tech specs a little bit on the site of the distribution of APB, which is the super friendly people over on proaudiotechnik.de, and I was looking a little bit at the specs here, and something caught my eye which I thought just really speaks to the quality of this, which is here the frequency plot of this mixer from 20 Hertz to 20 kilohertz is basically minus 0.5 down, and this is the killer for any input to any output. And that's a big giveaway to the amount of quality that has been put into this device. Having worked in Pro Audio, I know how these measurements are taken, and if you want to make sure that your values are good, but you're building something that has to be built to a price point, which is fair enough, you can just make sure that you have one pair of channels that go only to the XLR outputs with like very nice clean electronics there, so that you can measure a really clean signal there. As soon as you put something in with a cinch connector or something, the values can be completely different, but this is actually for any input to any output. And that in itself says a lot. Yeah, I hope this has been useful for you to get a feeling for this mixer and how potentially it could make sense also in your studio. Considering the amount of inputs that you get to route stuff around, the huge flexibility of it and the sonics of it, yeah, it's, I think, absolutely a fair price. You know, it's kind of one of these mixers that you buy once and that topic of your studio will be done. There's nothing to think about there anymore, because I think it is really at a very high quality point for what is still a reasonable price to pay for a mixer. So yeah, that is my thoughts on this. I think the only downside maybe to also, you know, do this as in a very balanced way is that the mixer comes from the factory with a little fan in it, which I think is been put in there in case if you're doing using this mixer in live situations, maybe where the room is very hot, to make sure that the power supply is cooled enough. I unplug the fan, you can open it up, you can let an electronic specialist open it up. I know enough about it that I trust myself, but yeah, don't do this at home unless you really know what you're doing and you should electrocute yourself. But yeah, I disconnected the fan, which means that my warranty on the power supply is now void. It's very cool of APB that they say this will void your warranty only on the power supply, not on the mixer, which I think is super fair. And I've never had any issue with it feeling hot or anything like that, because my studio is not a live music venue and it's not like 40 degrees in here or something. So only downside is, yes, it comes with fan noise from the factory, but there is this workaround at your own risk to remove the fan power connector, and then you'll have a dead quiet mixer. Yeah, that's it, guys and girls. That is my overview of this device. Built like a tank, sounds fantastic, has every imaginable kind of input, signal metering, send configuration, fully sweepable low EQs, tons of inputs, very clean, enjoyable sonics that are a huge upgrade to send signals through. So if you're looking for a centerpiece for a, I would say, more complex studio, this is a really great place to look. I've never tried summing with it. It's just way too much hassle. I have had summing setups in my studios once or twice in the past, and for me personally it wasn't worth it. But as a centerpiece for the studio to route signals flexibly, yeah, this mixer is fantastic. So that's my review after owning it for a year and a half. I hope this was useful to you, and I'll see you on the next video. Take it easy. Bye bye.